Hi, I'm Carl Carrington. I'm the Chief Executive at New Zealand King Salmon, and looking forward to having this conversation with viewers of NZX Direct to chat about New Zealand King Salmon business.
Kia ora, Ben Rogers, Chief Financial Officer, also looking and assisting Carl with the conversation today.
So I thought, Ben, it might be quite useful if we just outline what the core purpose is of the company. We've done a lot of work on purpose and strategy over the last sort of 6 to 8 months to really sharpen up what we're doing. And the historic core purpose was about creating the ultimate salmon experience. And we sort of felt that that's a really sharp articulation of the quality proposition of King Salmon. So I really like it from a sales and marketing perspective, but it's a little bit too narrow. And we wanted to have something that was much more holistic, and that everybody in the company and the community and regulators could all identify with and understand. And so we landed on creating a healthier world, and that kind of fits at the intersection when we think about consumer needs. Consumers looking for healthy, nutritious, high quality protein. So it resonates with consumers. It talks to the environment about recognising that fish health is absolutely vital for us. So we've got to have really good freshwater and seawater marine environments. So respecting the environment is so important for us. And it recognises that communities are really important to us as well. We're a significant employer in regional New Zealand, and so there's a lot of families, suppliers, customers, all dependent on the success of New Zealand King Salmon. And we want our employees and communities to be really proud to work for the company and also to support the company in its endeavours. And then the other sort of key stakeholder for us is also regulators, since they're the ones who ultimately grant us the licences that we need for farming consents. And of course that's also a function of how well we engage with communities and are supported by communities, and making sure that we're responsible in the environment as well. How do you feel about it? You resonate with that?
Yeah, definitely something that resonates with me, Carl. I think as a company we've been through the ringer over the last 3 years, so a chance to reset, repurpose, and look forward to some exciting growth initiatives in the future.
Yeah, no, exactly. And actually, when you say being through the ringer, that's probably a good segue into the large mortality events that the business experienced back in over the summer of 2021-22. And I think that's a really pivotal moment for the company, because obviously it had the disastrous impact on earnings at the time in terms of, when you've got all of that biomass being written off the balance sheet. But it also meant that we adapted what we were doing. Maybe you want to talk about how we've adapted and...
It's a really good segue. As a business, you always have constraints, and our constraint in the last few years has really been on the supply side. And unfortunately, as a result of that mortality event, we had to reduce our supply challenges even further. But the outcome of that was to be a more profitable, more predictable, and more sustainable business moving forward. And it's that strong footprint we need to actually underpin the growth and opportunities moving forward. And hopefully, that core business producing good results will underpin those Blue Endeavour initiatives, and that also then has the coming full circle impact of removing one of our constraints at the moment, which is supply.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really good to be able to report some good, strong results this year. EBITDA at 24.5 million was a good recovery, and we think we've got more that we can get out of the business as well, just by being more efficient and getting that new operating model bedded down a bit more. And guidance for this year is set at 26 to 32 million, so another step up we're striving to deliver. Maybe we should just talk about some of the other things we're doing around adapting to climate change, because that's one of the big topics on people's minds. And a business like ours we are really canaries in the coal mine, so to speak, because we get significantly impacted by climate change. And there's obviously the stuff that goes on in the water, and we'll talk about some of the strategies there. We've changed the farming strategy. We're really excited about thermotolerance. Cawthron Institute in Nelson has done some fantastic work looking at how our families can cope with elevated temperatures in aquarium type environments. So we want to see how they react.
Yeah, I think that's one of the exciting things about moving into a touchwood stable business model is we can look at those opportunities to continue to optimise and improve what we do, whether that be around fish health, wider environmental things around looking at how we reduce waste to landfill, and continue to how we can optimise our earnings within the existing constraints we have.
How about targets? You know, what are your thoughts about setting carbon targets before we know what they are?
Yeah, I think it's always the case of learning to walk before you run, and I think what was important to us as a company is to have a really strong baseline, which we knew had credibility. So if you know your baseline, you can set, once you've got that, you can set targets which you believe are achievable and measurable. So we've sort of done the hard lifting in FY24 to get that baseline done. FY25 that will be audited as well. And the work this year now is really starting to establish those targets. And if you sort of noticed, some of the Scope 3 challenges have probably have a slightly longer tenure on them. But even this year, one of our big initiatives was looking at how we might reduce our waste to landfill and investing over $1 million in an silage plant. And looking forward to seeing that improvement in our carbon footprint in the next 12 months. Yeah,
exactly. I think, we are really adamant that we're not going to get drawn into setting targets for the sake of setting targets. Whatever we set is we're going to have a really clear plan that we know there's a pathway to get to it, right? And that's the important thing is action, right? So that's why we haven't set targets yet. Get the data, then work out the plan on how we're going to reduce it.
Yeah.
The amazing thing is that King Salmon is only really farmed in New Zealand, and in fact it's about 0.5% of total global supply of salmon is a King Salmon. So that's really good from a marketing perspective. We've got a really unique selling proposition, beautiful fish. The downside of it is we have to do all of the science, right? We can't pick up science from elsewhere in the world and apply it to King Salmon because it's a different fish. And so we're doing a lot of work with both Cawthron again and with our feed suppliers to understand how we can optimise diets across the different months of the year as the water temperatures are changing, and also across the life cycle of the fish. A smaller fish has a different energy requirement to a larger fish, so a lot of work going on in that space as well. Perhaps we talk about some of the things we're investigating on land in terms of dealing with flood and drought protection.
Yeah, I think we sort of talked about wanting to have a more predictable, more consistent business, and a lot of it is around how we manage risk. So looking at things like flood protection at Tentburn, drought protection at Tākeka, and also just in our existing business operations to make sure we have critical spares, we have plans for critical spares, and we run business continuity plans as well. I think that's all part of trying to reduce the risks we can control, and becoming more predictable and more sustainable for the future.
If we can do that, we set ourselves up for a really exciting future with Blue Endeavour, which is that new farm that's been consented in the outer Marlborough Sounds. It's 7 kilometres off Cape Lambert, so stepping out towards Cook Strait, but not actually in Cook Strait. Still a higher energy environment, but it's not like the energy in the waves that you see when you're crossing the Cook Strait on the ferry, right? It's not as dramatic as that. But we're going to do some more baseline data monitoring, and then June next year we'll put test infrastructure out there. We'll put some pilot fish out there. And we're just going to do a pilot scale, stepping quietly into the open ocean, make sure that we're comfortable the infrastructure works. The fish health is what we think it's going to be. The quality of fish coming out at the end of it is exactly how we want it to be, really premium grade fish. Perhaps we talk about where our fish goes.
Yeah. So at the moment we do around 7,000 metric tonnes of fish, of which probably a third of that will work its way through the New Zealand food system, through fine chain restaurants and large supermarkets. Remaining 2/3 exported around the world. Our biggest foreign market would be North America, but also have a good percentage of our export going to Australia, Asia, and a little bit to Europe as well. One thing we often talk about as a business is we have been constrained by the supply side. So our sales team will often tell us if we had more fish we could sell it, and that's one of the, I guess, exciting transformational opportunities that Blue Endeavour potentially unlocks for us as a business. I guess like any business, you operate within a constraints. One of our constraints at the moment is supply, and hence Blue Endeavour will hopefully remove that constraint. Outside of that, you're in a price and a cost situation in terms of how we can be more efficient. My view as CFO is there's always work to be done. There's always things we could be doing better. If I went back to the rights issue, we guided the market to $15 to $19 million of EBITDA on a long-term basis. This year we've just given guidance of 26 to 32, and the wider management team will be pushing as hard as we can to continue to increase that within the constraints at the moment, which are limited supply.
But ultimately, there's only so far that you can push pricing, and there's only so much cost that you can take out of the business. And at a certain point, to continue to grow earnings, we do need to bring on more supply, and hence Blue Endeavour is such an important transformational growth pathway for us, really, and for the New Zealand industry as well.
Yeah, Blue Endeavour, or aquaculture in general, is very capital intensive. In terms of one of the benefits with timelines pushing out, it gives you a greater ability to improve your core business. And as you improve the core business, it gives you the opportunity to retain more funding. Combining that with the longer timeline, we'll look to fund as much of it by ourselves as we can. Recently, with our full year result, the board has said no dividends in the short to medium term as we progress the Blue Endeavour opportunity. Outside of that, all avenues would be open, I'd say. We have a balance sheet which is very deleveraged, so we do have some debt capacity, and there's always the opportunity being listed to go to equity markets as well. So yeah, exciting times, having an opportunity to fund.
Look, we're extremely grateful that the government is now really stepping in to support aquaculture. Consent renewals are challenging. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of time and a lot of cost getting those consent renewals through the process. So we certainly welcome the Minister's support to get that done quickly and efficiently. Ultimately, uncertainty is the enemy of investment, and anything that can remove uncertainty and speed up that process, we're highly supportive of it. But I think we do call out that it needs to be done the right way as well, because we are very conscious of making sure the environment is healthy and sustainable, because ultimately that ties back to having healthy fish. So it's got to be done the right way, and I'm sure that by the time it's all through, the right checks and balances will be in place to make sure that happens.
Hi, I'm Grant Webster, the CEO of THL. I've been at THL for a scaringly long 19 years, 15 years of those as CEO, and this is Amir.
Hey, I'm Amir Ansari. I'm the Manager of Strategy and Development at THL, as well as the Company Secretary. I haven't been here for 19 years, just a measly old 5 years here.
Otherwise, he'd look like this, but never mind. So you might be wondering about THL. Some of you will know THL, some not. Tourism Holdings Limited, first listed on the New Zealand Stock Exchange in 1986, also on the ASX now. We're actually the largest commercial RV rental operator in the world. So RV, the sort of international name for motorhomes, caravans, camper vans, all those sorts of recreational vehicles. So that the sell industry, where people are selling RVs, is much larger than us. The build industry is much larger, but we are the largest in that commercial rental space. Plus, we also manufacture motorhomes and other specialist vehicles under the Action Manufacturing brand in Australia and New Zealand. And we do things like St John Ambulance and Wellington Free Ambulance. We do mobile surgical units, all that kind of thing. And then lastly, we do have a bit of a throwback to our history as a broader tourism company. We've still got Discover Waitomo, so blackwater rafting, Waitomo glowworm caves, and the Kiwi Experience Hop On, Hop Off youth network as well.
Yep. So a really, really big milestone for us recently was our merger with Apollo Tourism and Leisure at the back end of 2022. Would you say that's the most significant thing that's happened in the history of THL?
Absolutely, without a doubt. So to merge with your largest sort of competitor across Australia and New Zealand, yeah.
Yeah, so Apollo at the time were ASX listed, and they operated a very, very similar business model to us. So they were also in the RV industry, operating build, rent, sell, globally, headquartered out of Australia. And so obviously what comes with that is a huge amount of synergies. We estimated it at around 30 million EBIT recurring on an annual basis, and that made the merger, we called it a 1 + 1 = 3 situation, where you had THL's earnings, Apollo's earnings, and then the third set of earnings, which was the synergies.
Yeah, so pretty rare to see a transaction these days that has that level of cost synergy. So investors really responded to that, and I think are still keeping us on track to make sure that that comes to life, which I think it will. The business model that sits behind us is as Mayor said, it's build, buy, rent, sell, but we talk about the connected margin between those. So you've got the margin that you make in building a vehicle, margin you make in selling a vehicle, but in rentals, we build a product that will survive rentals and have a really low depreciation rate, a real depreciation rate that's quite low. So we get an extra margin, as it were, than those independent business entities. And that's what sort of diversifies us, but also that geographical diversification. So New Zealand, Australia, USA, Canada, UK and Ireland. So globally diverse within the build, rent, sell, but well and truly in the RV and tourism industry.
Yeah, and so having the rentals business alongside sales really gives us an opportunity to play one and the other together to really get benefits. So as an example, we'll have a Maui that we manufacture that comes onto the rental fleet in New Zealand or Australia. It might sit there for a year, and then at that point, we might transfer it over to the sales business, or it might go into the Brits brand or the Apollo brand and down to Mighty. So what that means is on the rental side of things, if you're a customer wanting a premium product, we've got a brand new vehicle for you. If you want something older that's a bit more value, we've got that for you as well. And likewise, if you walk into an RV supercenter or an Apollo RV dealership in Australia, we've got a brand new vehicle there for you that we've manufactured ourselves. We've got a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old. And what that means is we can cater to anyone with a budget of $40,000 for a high-ace camper van over to $200,000 plus for a brand new 6-berth.
Yeah. So we're there meeting everyone's needs, really. And you might wonder, you think, well, where's the growth opportunities for THL? And really they're twofold. So we've got that whole tourism recovery kind of thematic. So, you think COVID might have been in the past, but the reality is for international tourism in particular, it's still in recovery mode. Yeah, you look at somewhere like Canada, airline capacities back over 100% of pre-COVID, but around the rest of the world, still big opportunities for recovery. So that's sort of organic growth from that perspective. But we also have growth opportunities in that build, buy, rent and sell in those jurisdictions through acquisitions and other opportunities. So do you want to give the team a bit of an update on M&A?
Yeah, so for those of you that'll be familiar with THL over the longer period, you'll know that we are M&A heavy in our activity. And so our entry into the UK market, the US market, the Canadian market, all through acquisitions over the last decade or so. So we are constantly assessing a pipeline, and we sort of engage with them as and when appropriate and when the right opportunity comes up, which isn't always the case, but we act when it's right. And so we do explore opportunities across build, rent and sell.
Yeah, so we're in summary a asset-intensive business, but mobile assets. So you think right back to the GFC, didn't have to raise capital. COVID, the worst impact on tourism stocks around the world ever, didn't have to raise capital. So we've got that ability to grow fleet, use the balance sheet, but when you get in trouble, it's the inverse of what people naturally think. When we're in trouble is actually when we generate really good cash flows. We can shrink that balance sheet up and stay really secure and survive to grow another day. So we're a safe and secure business in an industry that's growing, in an industry segment that people are really into as well. So our New Zealand tourism assets are really important to us the way that they are, but we're more RV-centric, not exclusive, but RV-centric in what we do today. So no real growth for us in that place. However, as a country, tourism has a really key part to play. It's going to be a key driver of our GDP growth over the coming few years, and I think we're in a really good place from that perspective. It's really interesting setting these kind of goals as a publicly listed company. It's not a normal thing to do. One benefit that it provides us is that internally everybody gets behind that goal. There's no issues around budgets or people saying, what am I going to do? It's everybody is targeted on that one goal, and we can talk about it really openly because it's open to the market. In saying that, yeah, it's challenging times. So the 100 million is a goal. It's not a forecast, but nevertheless, it guides us and it has some really clear assumptions behind it, which we've detailed out to the market to say, if you believe these things in the way that we believe them, then the 100 million is entirely possible. But we'll keep keeping the market updated as we strive towards that goal. How does it feel internally, Amir?
Yeah, really positive. As Grant mentioned, to have a goal that's communicated so widely internally, and therefore you have to communicate it externally, really drives people together. And I think the assumptions that we've got underlying it aren't really unreasonable at all.
No.
So if you assume that, tourism recovers to pre-COVID levels, which we think is reasonable, and also if you assume that, what we're currently seeing in the economy is sort of a cyclical shift and that will come through and recover in time as well. I think it's positive.
Absolutely. We're really keen to see the transition to low emission vehicles, probably electric, but at this stage, we're still not dead set around the world what will be the winning solution. It's really hard for us, though. We are a technology taker. So we've invested in 2017, we did our first EVRVs. And at that point in time, I thought by now we'd be, 30, 40, 50% of the fleet in that space. But the technology just hasn't moved all that fast for the commercial vehicles that we have. Last mile delivery, the Amazons and supermarket delivery and everything else, they can get away with a couple of 100 kilometres. We need much more than that for our tourists. So it's an area we're keenly focused on. We're investing in, we're trialling, and we've got some amazing partnerships around the world, but it is moving slower than what we would like.
Yeah, and really at the heart of travel by RV or motorhome is the freedom you've got to go as long as you want or as short as you want. And so for a customer or traveller to have some range anxiety and knowing that they have to plan and stop here and then charge, it kind of goes against the whole concept of the thing. Yeah. So, we really do need those vehicles with longer ranges to become available on a larger commercial basis before it can really take off.
And they will, and we're there at the forefront of it, and we'll be investing really heavily when we know the technology's right and it's going to deliver to customers.
Hi, my name is Michael Franks. I'm the Chief Executive at Seeka, and it's my privilege to introduce Nicola Nielsen to you. She's our Chief Financial Officer. Today I'm going to introduce our company to you, Seeka. We're listed on the NZX. While we're a produce company, our primary produce that we handle is kiwi fruit, and we're the only one on the NZX that does that. Kiwi fruit in New Zealand is a major growing category. Export sales in 2024 are expected to be around $3 billion. It's a growth industry. We've got a lot of growth in the company and in the industry. More and more volume, predominantly gold, and most of which is sold by Zespri around the world. So it is a major category to be involved in. There are around 2,800 growers in the industry, 14,500 hectares, and Seeka is the largest grower in the industry, as well as being a post-harvest company and a distributor. There are 4 components to our business. In the first component, in New Zealand, we are an orchardist. We grow predominantly kiwi fruit. We also grow avocados and kiwiberry. Most of the orchards that we're growing on are not our own. We enter into a financial arrangement with the owner. It's either leased or managed, or in some cases we've developed orchards on long-term leased land, most of which more recently have been with Kānoa and Maori, alongside them investing in their own land. Around 10% of New Zealand's kiwi fruit's grown by us with some arrangement. We also grow kiwiberries, a small cherry-sized kiwi fruit, and avocados. We're a large player in that game as well. In the second part of our business, we're a post-harvest handler. In that part of our business, we handle the arranging of scheduling fruit to be picked, the arrival of that fruit to one of our 12 pack houses, the packing of that fruit and its storage into cool stores, and then its distribution to the market. Harvest starts sometime in late February and will end with the last deliveries going out of our cool stores sometime in November. Picking itself will finish in June. And so it's a big part of what we do. There's a lot of assets, a lot of involvement, over $850 million of assets in that part of our business, a lot of employment, a lot of action, a lot of movement. So that's an exciting part of what we do right across the top half of the North Island. In the third part of our business, we are a retail services provider. So most of the fruit that we handle actually is sold by Zespri because they are, by legislation, the single desk marketer around the world. But however, in markets where they don't operate, in Australia and New Zealand, and by collaborative marketing in some other markets, we are able to sell. So we sell kiwi fruit into Australia. We have a small collaborative marketing program. We have our own wholesale market operating in Auckland. Through that market, we also handle avocados and kiwi because we grow them, but we also import bananas, pineapple, papaya. We sell citrus. If you buy it in the supermarket, we're probably handling it. We're a specialist supplier to major retail chains here in New Zealand, and it's a big part of what we do. A lot of energy, a lot of excitement, a lot of movement, connecting premium produce to those people who want to buy it. We also have, as part of that business, our value recovery operations. We have the Delicious Nutritious Food Company, which manufactures Kiwi Crush, which is a byproduct from kiwi fruit, sold predominantly to hospitals, but also available in supermarkets to help people who are sick. We also manufacture and sell avocado oil as part of that business. It's a big part of what we're doing because we're connecting the supply chain from the orchard through to consumers where Zespri aren't doing it. The last part of our business is our Australian-based business. Over there, we own and lease orchards. We grow kiwi fruit. We grow European pears, Nashi pears, jujubes and plums and a few other produce types. We're 100% connected and integrated in that part of the world. We grow, we handle, and we market. And so actually that's an exciting business. And it's fully integrated in that part of the world in Australia. Business has been through a bit of hard times through COVID and with the weather events that we had with the La Nina weather pattern. And so what we do, most of what we do is we're an infrastructure operator. We run a hotel for fruit through a supply chain, and the volumes that we handled last year were insufficient for us to make a profit. Thankfully, the outlook this year looks a lot better because the volumes are up. We haven't had the weather events. We've had a much better crop and much better handling. So we're focused on what happens next. Most of the produce, most of the avocados that we handle outside of kiwi fruit, because most of that's sold by Zespri, are handled and sold in our own brand. So Seeka is a brand you'll see in Australia with all of our produce in Australia, and it is a major produce brand grown in Australia. We are a large regional employer. So in the company, we have around 630 full-time employees. But at this time of the year, we will have thousands of seasonal employees working for us. We will have around 3,000 full-time equivalents working for us in the season, which means we're hiring around 6,000 or 7,000 individuals to actually get the jobs done. So a lot of employment. Gisborne, Apotiki, Te Puke, Tauranga, Katikati, Coromandel, Kerikeri. Major operations we've got running in New Zealand, and a lot of employment and a lot of benefit to the communities that we're operating in. And it's a big part of what we do. We complement the New Zealand workforce with our seasonals that come in from overseas through the RSE scheme. We'd have over about 1,350 Pacific Island and Malaysian workers that come to New Zealand to work with us in our communities to get the job done. Typically working in the orchards or working night shifts in pack houses because we're running 24 hours a day at this time of the year. We have invested alongside the government through the Kānoa scheme into land development with our Maori constituency. We'd have 60 or 70 hectares of development up in the Te Kaha or Kokori regions, which we're very proud of, because through that partnership we have with iwi and with the government, we've been able to take land that was used previously for cropping, that they couldn't get bank finance to develop, with us and with the government in partnership. We've been able to get those orchards underway, in development, and soon into production. As a result of that, New Zealanders are actually getting into employment. To be more than 20 full-time employees now in that part of the world working in those orchards that weren't working before. Of course, those developments and those investments made by the company are on commercial arrangements. So we've got more than 30-year packing commitments with the business to actually handle that fruit when it comes into production. Sustainability is important to the company. And led by Nicola and a team of people in the business, we're actually quite mature in our development around sustainability now. We understand where and how we are impacting on the environment. We understand the major impacts that we have, and we're putting in place investments and initiatives to limit the impact that we've got. And there are targets for us to hit now in terms of emissions reductions. Our aim is to have our reductions down by 30% in 2025, 50% by 2030, and zero by 2050 on our baseline. And we understand how we're going to do that and how we're going to get there. It is important, and we're recording it. And a reflection of the advancements that we've got in that part of the world, we've been able to enter into a sustainability linked loan with our banking syndicate, which rewards us and rebates our interest rate should we be able to achieve our targets, and penalises us if we should not. And so it's a recognition by the bank of the developments that we've got in that part of our business. But our aspiration is to return the company back to profitability, to reduce its debt, while at the same time being operationally excellent in a company where investors should consider us worthy of investing in. So there are a number of initiatives that we've put in place to restore profitability. Firstly, we did take some costs out of the company last year, some fixed costs to lower our cost structure. We've also done some interesting initiatives. We've deployed a captive insurance company where we now have our insurance placed directly into the London market rather than through an intermediary. And through that actually has significantly reduced the amount of increased insurance premiums that we might face, and in fact may over time decrease them. So that's an important initiative. Of course, we're a volume-based business. Thankfully, the volume looks like it is going up, and sustainably so. So, those three components around costs, in terms of innovation, we have focused on automation, and we've increased our margins. We're focusing on cost avoidance, but volume is going to help us the most, and it looks like the volumes are there.
So our focus at the moment is on improving our earnings. Once we lower our debt, then the board will be in a position where they can consider a dividend again. So for me, what excites me is the opportunity for growth, and people have to eat. So there's always demand for what we have to offer, and there's a huge amount of automation and innovation in the industry. So I'm just really excited to see what comes next for the fruit bowl, really.
So in my perspective, I think the thing that excites me the most over the next 5 to 10 years is the economic enablement that could happen for our shareholders and our stakeholders, the employment that we can deliver people in our communities that would make us a compelling reason to be associated with.